To truly grasp the scale of the catastrophic mistake made by the Indiana Fever front office, we must carefully examine the macroeconomic landscape of the franchise. This situation goes far beyond frustrated fans venting on Twitter or Reddit. It represents a profound seismic power shift in the relationship between a professional sports organization and its primary consumer base. The Indiana Fever are no longer a traditional sports franchise, they have effectively become a Caitlin Clark franchise. The empirical data makes this transformation undeniable. Before Clark's arrival, the Fever were largely irrelevant in the global sports conversation, sitting at the bottom of the league standings and attendance metrics, often struggling to give away tickets and attracting little to no national television viewership. That indifference vanished the moment Caitlin Clark entered the scene, instantly turning the entire operation into a literal gold mine. She delivered sellout crowds to arenas across the country, compelled the league to relocate games to larger NBA venues to satisfy overwhelming ticket demand, and shattered merchandise records within hours of her jersey's release. As a result, the Fever transitioned from a forgotten and unprofitable franchise to the most watched and highly valued team in the WNBA, with every aspect of this unprecedented economic transformation driven by a single individual. Consequently, when this massive, deeply invested and fiercely loyal fan base witnessed the franchise selecting Raven Johnson with the 10th overall pick, their immediate reaction was not merely disappointment. What followed was not mere disappointment but sheer, unfiltered rage, and to fully comprehend this reaction, one must understand the deeply contentious history at its core. This situation involves far more than the selection of a random rookie. Raven Johnson and Caitlin Clark share a highly publicized rivalry that dates back to the 2023 Final Four, when Clark famously waved Johnson off at the three-point line, daring her to shoot, a viral moment that ignited widespread attention and cemented their competitive narrative. Yet the tension extends well beyond that single play. Just weeks before the WNBA draft, Raven Johnson appeared on a widely discussed podcast where she directly criticized the core demographic of the Indiana Fever's emerging fan base, labeling Caitlin Clark's supporters as toxic, as bullies, and accusing them of racism. Whether one agrees with her assessment is ultimately irrelevant from a business perspective. Viewed strictly through a corporate marketing lens, selecting a player with a first-round draft pick who has publicly alienated the very customers responsible for purchasing season tickets represents a catastrophic failure of fundamental public relations.
You're over being called a racist? Just that quick. Interesting. Okay. Must be nice. I don't get down. I'm not forgiving that. Okay? That's not going to happen. So, and never mind the logistical.
To truly grasp the scale of the catastrophic mistake made by the Indiana Fever front office, we must carefully examine the macroeconomic landscape of the franchise. This situation goes far beyond frustrated fans venting on Twitter or Reddit. It represents a profound seismic power shift in the relationship between a professional sports organization and its primary consumer base. The Indiana Fever are no longer a traditional sports franchise, they have effectively become a Caitlin Clark franchise. The empirical data makes this transformation undeniable. Before Clark's arrival, the Fever were largely irrelevant in the global sports conversation, sitting at the bottom of the league standings and attendance metrics, often struggling to give away tickets and attracting little to no national television viewership. That indifference vanished the moment Caitlin Clark entered the scene, instantly turning the entire operation into a literal gold mine. She delivered sellout crowds to arenas across the country, compelled the league to relocate games to larger NBA venues to satisfy overwhelming ticket demand, and shattered merchandise records within hours of her jersey's release. As a result, the Fever transitioned from a forgotten and unprofitable franchise to the most watched and highly valued team in the WNBA, with every aspect of this unprecedented economic transformation driven by a single individual. Consequently, when this massive, deeply invested and fiercely loyal fan base witnessed the franchise selecting Raven Johnson with the 10th overall pick, their immediate reaction was not merely disappointment. What followed was not mere disappointment but sheer, unfiltered rage, and to fully comprehend this reaction, one must understand the deeply contentious history at its core. This situation involves far more than the selection of a random rookie. Raven Johnson and Caitlin Clark share a highly publicized rivalry that dates back to the 2023 Final Four, when Clark famously waved Johnson off at the three-point line, daring her to shoot, a viral moment that ignited widespread attention and cemented their competitive narrative. Yet the tension extends well beyond that single play. Just weeks before the WNBA draft, Raven Johnson appeared on a widely discussed podcast where she directly criticized the core demographic of the Indiana Fever's emerging fan base, labeling Caitlin Clark's supporters as toxic, as bullies, and accusing them of racism. Whether one agrees with her assessment is ultimately irrelevant from a business perspective. Viewed strictly through a corporate marketing lens, selecting a player with a first-round draft pick who has publicly alienated the very customers responsible for purchasing season tickets represents a catastrophic failure of fundamental public relations.
Longer than 4 letters. Hopefully Snoop Dogg doesn't come for that. Wow. So they went on social media asking for you to buy tickets as a consumer of their product. Ooh.
What truly ignited the fire, however, was not merely the drafting of Raven Johnson but the moment head coach Stephanie White addressed the live microphone during the draft press conference and effectively poured corporate gasoline on an already volatile situation. The outrage stems from what many perceive as catastrophic messaging. When a credentialed reporter asked how the guard rotation would function, White did little to reassure concerned fans. Instead, she outlined a scenario in which veteran Ty Harris would serve as a combo guard and explicitly stated that Caitlin Clark is capable of playing both on and off the ball. She then compounded the reaction by describing rookie Raven Johnson as a true point guard who thrives with the ball in her hands. Matters escalated further when White concluded by suggesting that this newly acquired guard depth would allow shooting guard Kelsey Mitchell additional opportunities to rest. Taking a moment to carefully analyze these remarks reveals the core of the backlash. The head coach never articulated the one statement fans believed was essential. She never declared that Caitlin Clark is the undisputed starting point guard and the central decision-maker through whom the entire offense operates. Rather than reinforcing her central role, the head coach publicly outlined a tactical vision in which the greatest offensive playmaker of her generation, a player renowned for shattering assist records and possessing seemingly supernatural court vision, could be moved off the ball to accommodate a defensive-minded rookie and a veteran role player. The mainstream access-driven media has largely overlooked the deeper basketball analytics that make this such a significant tactical misstep. So here is the real on-court reality. Removing the ball from Caitlin Clark's hands borders on basketball malpractice. When she operates as the primary point guard, her gravitational pull dramatically distorts opposing professional defenses. Coaches, fearful of her extended logo shooting range, often trap her as far as 30 feet from the basket. A pressure that opens the paint for uncontested layups for forwards and creates wide-open corner three-point opportunities for players like Kelsey Mitchell. Shifting Clark off the ball voluntarily eliminates the most dangerous and efficient component of the Indiana Fever's entire offensive ecosystem. Modern fans are highly informed and rely on empirical data, recognizing that the team's offensive rating declines when Clark is relegated to a traditional spot-up shooter running off baseline screens. Consequently, when Stephanie White appears to advocate for implementing this very system, supporters interpret it as a direct undermining of the franchise's most potent weapon.
Kelsey Mitchell back here. Wow. What? Guys, there are signs. There are signs now. I'm not sure Caitlin Clark's going to be on this team.
This is precisely the moment when a tactical disagreement escalates into a full-blown corporate financial crisis, as fans are no longer merely voicing their frustrations on YouTube and Twitter but are instead carrying out a highly coordinated and financially devastating consumer boycott. The Indiana Fever's ticket sales department has been reduced to practically pleading with customers, a stark contrast to the previous year when the franchise proudly boasted a massive season ticket waiting list. Clear evidence that consumer demand far exceeded the available supply, an exceptionally rare and advantageous position for any sports organization. However, the front office made a critical and arrogant miscalculation by assuming that this overwhelming demand was for the Indiana Fever brand itself, overlooking the reality that it was driven exclusively by Caitlin Clark. The internet is now erupting with fans demonstrating this point, as season ticket renewals have allegedly stalled, individuals on the waiting list are declining to purchase when contacted by ticket representatives, and the once thriving secondary ticket market, previously fueled by the lucrative resale of overpriced Fever tickets, has suddenly come to a complete standstill. Faced with the fallout of their own decisions, the Indiana Fever organization is now aggressively deploying desperate marketing emails, promotional group ticket packages, and pleading social media campaigns in an attempt to artificially revive the demand they themselves have undermined. The sheer irony of this situation is staggering. The front office deliberately ignored multiple warning signs, overlooked the controversial baggage associated with their first-round draft pick, and publicly appeared to diminish the role of the primary engine of their offense during a live press conference. Now, in a dramatic reversal, they find themselves desperately appealing to the very same fans who felt alienated, urging them to return, purchase premium courtside seats, and financially support their newly expanded $7 million salary cap. This scenario represents far more than a simple public relations misstep. It stands as a catastrophic example of business management failure with potentially career-altering consequences.
Tards. Right there. Is this a sign? Are they pushing her out of the franchise? God, if you own this team, you better wake up. Clark should leave now. You've got the dumbest front office.
Attention must now turn to what many perceive as the sheer arrogance of the front office leadership, particularly General Manager Amber Cox and President of Basketball Operations Kelly Kroskoff. Within professional sports organizations, there often exists a deeply ingrained and highly toxic echo chamber where executives believe their understanding of basketball surpasses that of the paying public, viewing fans as emotional and irrational consumers who will ultimately accept whatever product is placed before them. In this case, they appear to assume they could make a purely defensive basketball selection, disregard the significant public relations concerns associated with it, and still expect supporters to blindly rally behind the team. This perspective reflects a fundamental misunderstanding of the modern sports consumer, especially when it comes to the Caitlin Clark fan base, which is unprecedented in women's basketball and perhaps in sports more broadly. This following is massive, intensely passionate, highly organized, and, most importantly, fiercely loyal to Clark herself rather than to the WNBA as an institution. Many of these fans were drawn to the sport exclusively because of her, lacking the generational, unconditional loyalty seen in NFL supporters of the Dallas Cowboys or NBA fans of the Los Angeles Lakers. Their allegiance is centered on a single individual, and if that individual is not properly utilized, prioritized, or is perceived to be diminished, marginalized, or disrespected by her own coaching staff, those fans are likely to close their wallets and disengage from the sport just as swiftly as they embraced it.
A lot of people believe that she may be headed to playing small forward. Man, wow. No thanks. I'd like to see Caitlin Clark be Caitlin Clark. Not happening on this team with this coach and with this front office. Great, another year of Stephanie White sabotaging the face of the league.
Stepping back to examine the broader implications, this boycott poses a significant threat to the financial infrastructure of the entire league. The WNBA recently secured a monumental 11-year media rights agreement valued at more than $2.2 billion and restructured its collective bargaining agreement based on projections of substantial future revenue. In candid terms, broadcasting networks committed to this massive investment with the expectation that millions of viewers would tune in to watch Caitlin Clark launch logo-range three-pointers and deliver spectacular full-court passes, not to see her relegated to standing quietly in the corner while Ty Harris and Raven Johnson orchestrate a slow half-court offense. Should the Indiana Fever's ratings decline as a result of fans actively boycotting the coaching staff's tactical decisions, the repercussions would extend across the entire league, potentially triggering concern among networks and a pullback from advertisers. The Fever front office is therefore engaging in a perilous situation that could impact the financial stability of the broader WNBA ecosystem. That said, a full-scale boycott resulting in completely empty arenas remains highly unlikely, as Clark's immense global appeal will continue to attract casual fans eager to see her play in person. However, the current response from season ticket holders, those on the waiting list, and the most dedicated supporters serves as a powerful and unmistakable warning signal, indicating that the core fan base believes there is a firm boundary in place and that the front office is approaching it at considerable risk of lasting consequences.
Caitlin at small forward and push that boring brand of hack and grind basketball everybody hates. Oh, God. The Indiana Fever are getting smashed. That's crazy. I mean, woo-wee. I cannot believe.
The solution to this unprecedented turmoil within the Indiana Fever organization is, in reality, remarkably straightforward. The franchise does not require additional marketing gimmicks or discounted group ticket promotions. What it truly needs is absolute and transparent accountability. Before the season officially begins, Stephanie White must step to the podium at a press conference, look directly into the television cameras, and deliver 6 simple yet powerful words. Caitlin Clark is our point guard. That is all. No qualifications, no corporate doublespeak, no discussions about rotational versatility or playing both on and off the ball, just a clear, unambiguous declaration affirming that the franchise player is indeed the centerpiece around which the entire offensive system will be built. At present, the front office's silence on this critical tactical issue is deafening, and the longer it persists, the louder the fan outrage will grow and the greater the financial losses the franchise is likely to endure. With the Indiana Fever having officially opened the 2026 season on May 9th and training camp commencing within days, the organization must make a definitive decision before the opening tip-off about its true identity. Whether it aims to be a perennial championship contender built around the most dynamic and profitable offensive player in the sport's history, or a stubborn, overcoached democracy where ball handling responsibilities are diluted, roles remain fluid, and the world's most popular player is marginalized in an effort to prove a point. Ultimately, the paying fans have already made their decision. They are choosing Caitlin Clark, and the true multi-million-dollar question is whether the Indiana Fever front office is wise and humble enough to make that same choice. This moment represents far more than a simple roster debate. It is a defining crossroads that will determine the franchise's identity, credibility, and financial trajectory for years to come. WNBA Pro will remain right here on the front lines, meticulously monitoring box office numbers, press conferences, locker room dynamics, and every tactical adjustment to bring you the unfiltered truth about what happens next. If this deep, raw, and heavily analytical breakdown resonated with you, and you appreciate honest, business-focused insights that mainstream sports media often hesitate to address, then it's time to smash that subscribe button and become part of the smartest and most objective basketball community on the internet. Join the conversation by dropping your hottest and most unfiltered take in the comments section below. Are you actively boycotting Fever tickets this season, and do you believe the front office will acknowledge fan concerns and change course, or will they stubbornly cling to their decisions in an effort to protect internal egos? This is more than just a debate about basketball strategy. It's a discussion about leadership, accountability, and the future direction of the WNBA itself. Let the debate begin. Make sure to hit that notification bell so you never miss an update, and stay tuned as the financial and competitive fallout from this draft controversy continues to unfold. Peace out.